Okay, today we have most of the 3D printed parts for the Vanishing Shadow battery operated 3D printed build, and this will be the frame piece. And you can see I've got a 220 by 1, or as they like to sell them, 1 by 220 gear ratio motor. Found these on AliExpress is where I found the most amount of different gear ratios and the best prices. I'll try to put a link. Keep in mind though that links are, I'll put a link down for today. It doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. Seller could be gone, whatever. But there's usually a lot of them up there. Just do a search for TT gear motor. They'll pop up and you'll find ones that sell them in all different ratios. So this is one of the slower ones, gives you more power, and that's what we kind of need for this toy. Anyway, the motor just slips down on the frame, then I take a 632 screw on each side here in America. I'm sure you can find something very close that would work if you're in the land of millimeters, and slide it in there. And the only other part that you see here are the two cam pieces, and they just press on like that. So you want to have that part kind of prepped and sitting to the side. This little notch piece sticking up, this will help you realize this is the back side of the frame. This is the front side of the frame. Okay, we have to start with the feet and the legs and all of that. There is a right and left foot, there is a right and left leg, and there's a right and left linkage. And then as far as that goes, there's actually right and left on the ratchet wheels. These things have to be done right or it's not going to work. Long and short of it is I have one built up and one that I'm going to build up in front of you. So basically this leg here is assembled, and I could connect it to this box, but let's wait till we build the other one. So you've got this part is part of the leg, and this part is the linkage, and the ratchet's only on the front wheel. The smooth side is the outside of the robot. This side where these posts go in to hold everything will be the inside, crotch side of the robot. And it's important that you keep those things straight. The wheels, when they're installed correctly, are going to have the rubber ring, O-ring side on the little ratchet wheels facing towards the outside. We're going to keep coming back to that and talk about that more as we go along. Sit there. On the wheels, like I say, there's ones with ratchets to the left and to the right, depending on which side. And obviously I haven't put the O-ring on this one yet. The box, I have a box just full of different sizes of O-rings, which I picked up. You can get them online. Picked mine up at Harbor Freight. It says that this is a 1/4 inch inside diameter and 3/16 or whatever, 3/8, whatever it said on the outside. Doesn't matter. The point is, you just need an O-ring that's going to fit snug on there when it's popped on. Now these little ratchet wheels print flat on the bed, as you see it sitting here and sitting here, and also the ratchet lever itself, you can see it's quite small, prints flat on the bed, sitting like that. So there's certain parts you're going to want to print at a higher resolution, higher quality setting. 0.16 is what I used on these instead of the standard, 0.12. And that was more than good enough quality for that. When we get to it, talking about if these little things you see sitting here form the conical ears and the top of the head, they're individual parts. Since they're so small, again, I printed them at the higher resolution. Okay, the foot or feet, since there's a left and right one, print flat on the bed. I turn on tree supports because that makes it the easiest to remove. And like I said before, the side with these holes where there's going to be posts and pins going in, that's towards the inside of the robot, the crotch side. The smooth side is going to be on the outside, and obviously the point's the toe, so that's aiming forward. So if you grab a leg and you don't know whether it's the left or the right or what it is, on these legs, these are all faced the back side of the robot. This large part here, which goes down inside the foot, faces the back side of the robot. So when it goes in, it's going to go in like that. And see how this part here has a piece that sticks out here, right here? That has to be on the side that's facing in, not out. So once you've got all those things to agree in your world that this would fit in there and this is going to face in, that'll automatically tell you what's right and what's left. You can see you got a little booger on here where I cleaned up the holes. I want to get that out of there. There we go. Now the same thing's going to be true with the linkage arm. And the linkage arm, this piece is going to face towards the toe, forward, and this piece up here that has a protrusion has to face into the robot, towards the crotch, not out. Just like this one did. So then you'll know you've got the correct one for the correct leg. And the easiest way to feed it in there is just to come in from the top, turn it, and then it's going to sit in there just like that. Now when we go to pin these parts in, you're going to use 3mm rod stock. These are cut, I believe, if I remember right, about 22 millimeters long. And we're going to want to put these parts in first before we do anything else on the feet. So this will just drop in like that. We should be able to line this up and put this in like this, like that, and that's pinned. And of course I turned it upside down to keep things in camera and ended up dropping the linkage out. So let's put the linkage back in again. There we go. And it's going to go towards the front. We've got to get that part lined. There we go, lined up in there. And just take the pin for that. Now what I like to do to keep these pins from wanting to fall out on their own is I'm going to work them both where they're sticking out just a little bit. There we go. So I got them sticking out. Take and put just a little bit of adhesive on there. In this case I'm going to use some E6000 because it's easily removable if you've made a mistake and don't want to have to start all over again. So I'll just dabble a little bit of that on the ends of those. Obviously I got a lot more than what I needed. I just want something to keep the pins from falling out on their own, one, while we're handling it to build this, and two, later on. Like that. Push them in flush if you cut them the right length. And once that adhesive sets up, then we don't have to worry about those pins wanting to fall out. Now the next thing I would do, so that you don't get things confused, is I would put in the toe ratchet wheel. Well, the toe ratchet arm has to go in. And to pin these in, we're just going to use a paper clip. Now, the things to remember about this is, just like with these upper parts, it has a side that protrudes out, sticks further out like that. And that's going to help you identify which way we're going to drop this thing down in there. And when it's down in there, this side with this needs to be facing up in there. In other words, the fat side that's here, that needs to be facing down. It's kind of a counterweight. And if you drop it in that way, that's going to have this piece fitting in like that. And see, when it's in this position, that has the ratchet arm closer to the side with the holes, the inside of the foot, and that's where it needs to be because we've got the rubber wheel on the outside of the foot, right? So we can take this piece and then take a paper clip, and if your paper clips have the plastic coating on them, strip the plastic coating off, and you should be able to fit that in. You need to make sure that your holes are clear on the part so that the ratchet arm will be free to move, doesn't hang up at all. I need my snips. And once you have the arm sitting in place, take your snips and just snip that off. And everything looks right. That's where I'm going to want it. And I'm going to try to do the same thing that I did with the larger axle, the 3mm axles. And that's maybe just try to apply a small amount of goop. And if you can't get in on the end of it, see, I don't know if I can do this and stay in camera. I'm working it out with a blade. Let me grab the goop again. If I can get it to put just a little bit on the end of that, kind of pulled the whole paper clip out. But that's okay. Hang on there, I'm putting the cap on the glue so it doesn't drip all over me. But that's okay, I'm gonna wet my finger a little bit and push everything back in. There we go. Once this goop dries, we can clean the excess off out here. So again, we got the lever closest to the inside of the foot, not towards the outside, because when we put the ratchet wheel in, the rubber part is going to be towards the outside. It's important for stability of the robot. Then, like I say, there's a right and lefts on these ratchets. It has to do with the angle of that. And you have to think about when this turns, when the foot's going forward, this is going to be turning this way, which means the ratchet could just bounce off those. And then when the foot tries to move backward, the ratchet can catch on that edge. So that's how you know when you've got the correct wheel for the side. So grab another paper clip. This one's going to be a little bit harder for me. Honestly, don't know if I can do it on camera, because you kind of need to be able to, I guess I will. Got it in there. So before I go any further, I want to check to make sure the ratchet's working, and it is. I can rotate it one way. You need gravity, so that's why I'm holding it this way. It rotates this way and locks that way. So I know I got the right wheel. I know I've got the ratchet arm in the right place. I'm going to take the snips again, like that. And then again, we need to secure that little paper clip so it doesn't want to escape on its own. See if I can put just a little bit of, just a little drop on there. There we go. Very good. So if you do both feet up to that point, then you'll be left with two wheels in the end, and it doesn't matter which wheels end up in the back because there's no ratchet in the back. So I'm just saying, build both feet up, do the toes first, make sure you got the ratchets working, then whatever's left you can use in the rear. Now, in the rear, we need the paper clip again, and these paper clips came from the dollar store and they have a plastic coating on them. Like I say, you've got to get that coating off. See, get this, gets you just down to the paper clip itself. Back in the old days, it wasn't even an option, but these days they've got a coating on them. Okay. It's just a little bit long, which is fine with me, because I can come back and trim a little bit off there and get the goop again. You use whatever you want. I mean, if you know you've built it right, feel free to super glue it. Just something to I'm having trouble hitting the inside hole. Get in there. Okay, if we did this right, this foot should want to roll forward. It does, I can feel it, and then lock when you try to go backward. And that's what she's doing. That's good. Okay, so we know this is the inside, and this one that I already built, that's an inside. So we know they're going to sit basically like that. Now, if you knew you built them right and everything was fine, and you were going to paint this project, I suggest you paint them now, because if you build the whole robot up, these feet are going to be so close together you'll never get the spray paint to go in there. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to proceed on here. I just won't glue anything, and kind of work that in there. And then you're going to need to cut some 3mm rod. How long did I think these were? These should be, I'm looking at my cheat sheet, which I can't quite see. I have it written down over here. Need to get it closer. 35mm. Basically the idea is this rod would go all the way through, and it would even go through the other foot over here too, up to this hole. We don't want it sticking out too far, because the body actually is going to come down over all this and will hold these pins in place. So this part doesn't really require any gluing or anything, because once the body's on, it can't go anywhere. I'm not quite sure what I'm... Oh, I was fighting the pin. I had the pin in too far. There we go. So you can see when the pin's in place, you want it flush so that it won't bind up when we go to put the body on. Then in the front, we just have to grab these front linkages. Get that in there. Get that in there. And there we have that. We now have our legs on there, and I think I've got some batteries over here. So now we can kind of test the whole thing. And there isn't a polarity problem on this design. The motor can run either direction and won't make any difference in the walking. Okay. She's a working goot. So that was really the hardest part, was just getting the right and left legs in the right places, the right and left linkages, the right and left ratchet wheels. Getting it so you can assemble all that straight. The body, actually this is the top of the body. When you print it upside down like this, enable tree supports, which will grow a few supports up there for that edge. It'll grow a few supports in for the top of the battery holder. This inner ring part doesn't require them. It's designed to work. And basically, when the time comes, this piece will just slip down like that. See, and it covers the pins, so you don't have to worry about those pins coming loose. And you could just put this on lightly with just maybe a small drop of the E6000 on either side. That way, if you had to remove the body, you could get it off again. And this would be the back side. And this was designed to work with a AAA battery holder. And there's a hole. Well, let's just poke this in here. As long as we're doing a show and tell, right? Poke that in like that, and then put some glue on the back of the battery holder and glue the battery holder in like that. There's a cosmetic door which has two little fingers on it, and it'll just be a friction fit type thing, so that you can get a more finished look to the back if you want to cover up the batteries. The switch opening is laid out for the standard slide switch that I like to use. It is a double pull, double throw, but I just bend the tabs over and solder them together for increased reliability and current flow. And completely ran out of the small little number 2 screws for them. So these are something, I don't know, I just kept digging through my junk box till I found anything that fit it. Once they screwed in, it isn't going to make any difference. Anyway, it's going to mount right up here. You can see where the cutouts are and the places for the screws. It'll go in there and just sit right on top where it's easy to solder everything to it. If you already had some wires on your motor, they need to be this long. But if you had some wires on there and you got the wires from the switch, you could just take, say, connect the ground to one of the motor wires, take the other motor wire, go to the switch, take the other battery wire, go to the other side of the switch, and now you can turn it off and on easily. Okay, when it comes to the arms, I printed the arms in 2 pieces so that they wouldn't require any supports, and to give it a little bit better surface finish. So here's what the arm's going to look like when it's glued together. And of course there's a pin here, and you could take glue and glue this arm on whatever position that you want. I'm going to take this body off so we're not holding on to so much stuff here as we continue on with this build. Like that. So yeah, you can just put glue on there and decide where you want it, but in most of the pictures with his long arms, they're pretty much just aiming just a little bit, if we can get it where my hand's not blocking your view, aiming just a little bit forward, not quite straight up and down, but just a little bit forward is what they like to do. And like I say, I just put my glue on there, and then actually I take, since there's 2 pins there, I put this half on there when the glue's on there, because I know that'll keep the top aligned. Then I only have to concentrate on aligning the bottom and pinching as you do that, and you can end up with the parts glued together correctly. That brings us to the head. I print the head sitting flat like this, again enabling tree support so it can go up there and support there, and it runs a little bit of support under the cowcatcher nose piece. Of course, in the end, the head's just going to get glued on, but there's all kinds of room for stuffing wires in here, and there's all kinds of room down here for stuffing wires around the motor, so you can leave your wiring long. These holes for the eyes are made 5mm, so you can take standard 5mm LEDs and shove them through there, and of course wire the 2 LEDs in parallel and use a dropping resistor. If you're using red LEDs, you can just go in there and throw in, say, 150 ohm resistor and run it right off the 3 volts. But if you want to use white, for example, white LEDs start conducting at just a hair under 3 volts. So they're not going to work when you're running a motor and you only have 3 volts to begin with. You're going to have to use a little boost circuit. So these little boost circuits, like I've used in so many other projects, are just dirt cheap. You buy like a dozen of them for, you know, $4 or $5, and they're very small, and they'll change anything from about 1 volt up to 5 volts out. So if you use one of those and you're white, then you're going to want to throw in a current limiting resistor, 220 ohms, 330, whatever, something to save the LEDs and not draw excessive amounts of current through this. Okay, so that brings us now to the conical ear pieces. I print them all out, as you can see, just flat like this. This post is what all these parts are going to glue to, and the end of the post is going to go into the ear and the top of the head. Come back here. And I have all of those parts actually sitting out over here. So you start with your smallest one first, and I'm trying to push it all the way down to the large end, like that. And of course you can put glue on it if you want, but you can see it fit pretty tight. So then you just grab the next one, and you can see from here on up they'll have a larger ring and then the smaller ring, and you want to keep the smaller rings facing away from this as we stack them up. Now you'll probably have to clean these holes out with an X-Acto knife, because you get what's called elephant's foot when you print, and the inside diameter of this becomes a little bit smaller than what you ideally want for this application. And I don't know that I've cleaned this one out enough. If I can get it to push down, then we're good. I'm using pliers because it's so small I can't get my fingers on either side of it. So hang in there with me. So now we have the first two pushed on. This one was first, this one is second. Let's grab the third one. So you can see they just continue to get larger on the outside part of the ring. And let's continue trying to push these down. When they get a little bit bigger, I'll use my fingers to push them down, but till then, and so far so good. We got 3 of them on there. Just keep grabbing them as they come up in size. Now these ones I know I've cleaned with a knife, because that actually pushed down by hand. So you just kind of keep stacking them like so, and like so. Then you can take and you can glue that part right onto the robot. As either an ear, which I haven't checked to make sure whether I need to clean these holes or whether I'm good. That hole I'll need to clean out with an X-Acto knife. Take a little bit of my say I like to use the weld-on number 16. And just take that and there's one. So you just do it, another one for there and another one for the top of the head, and that's how it's all going to get decorated. So hopefully this build will help you with the initial parts if you decide you want to make the Vanishing Shadow robot. In the next video I'll show this thing assembled and painted.